never sleeps, pal.
Hey there, welcome to episode 41 of Money Never Sleeps, a podcast that looks inside the head of entrepreneurs and at what makes them do what they do. I'm Pete Townsend, your co-host of Money Never Sleeps, along with this week's comeback kid, Owen Fitzgerald. This episode of Money Never Sleeps is kindly sponsored by Ireland's fintech and financial services recruitment specialist, Top Tier Recruitment. If you or a colleague need help attracting and retaining great talent for your fintech or financial services company, we highly recommend you have a chat with the team at Top Tier Recruitment, as they really know their stuff. You can find them at toptierrecruitment.com and tell them we sent you. I first heard about what Andrea Reynolds was up to when she spoke at this year's High Potential Startup event put on by Enterprise Ireland, and I like what she had to say. Andrea is the founder and CEO of Swoop, who simplify and speed up access to loans, grants, and equity funding for businesses. Beyond the extreme relevance to what Owen and I both do with our day jobs, Andrea is just a really cool person, so we're thrilled to chat with her. Here we go with episode 41 of Money Never Sleeps. Here we go again. Welcome to Money Never Sleeps. We're here in WeWork Dublin Landings in the offices of our sponsor, Top Tier Recruitment. I'm Pete Townsend.
And I'm Owen Fitzgerald.
And we're here with Andrea Reynolds, the founder and CEO of Swoop. Welcome to the show, Andrea.
Thanks, Pete. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for coming. So I think that you and Owen know each other probably a little bit better than I know you, given we just met today.
I moderated a panel you were on last week.
Correct.
Future Scope. So that was the first time we met.
Our relationship's a week old.
Good. Wonderful. You were not at the HPSU event that Enterprise Ireland put on.
No, I was not.
Should you have been there?
Possibly.
Okay. But you were, and you were on stage.
I was.
Yeah. So I remember hearing what you were up to. I'm like, ooh, we got to talk to her.
Yes.
And then I was very pleasantly surprised that Owen made it all happen.
Great.
So here we are. So maybe just to get things started, you can give us a bit of your backstory on what got you to this point in life and what you're up to now.
Sure. So I started my career with KPMG Dublin in the financial services division, and I trained as an accountant. Had a wonderful, wonderful time there, wonderful career. Spent most of my time with Guinness Peak Aviation, so GPA. And so was really surrounded in a very entrepreneurial environment from the get-go. Most people associate auditing as very staid, but my experience was completely different. And then I decided, like a lot of Irish people, that I was going to London for a year. And I went for the year and didn't come back. I worked with KPMG in London, but felt that the atmosphere was not the entrepreneurial environment that I'd experienced in Ireland. So I was actually seconded to the Financial Conduct Authority to write insurance directives, and I thought, no, this is not me or my personality. So I left, and that was back in 2014. I decided I was going to set up my own corporate finance advisory arm, and serendipity, McLaren, the Formula One team, had just set up McLaren Applied Technologies, and that was for them to do joint ventures, so spin-ins to McLaren and spin-outs from McLaren. And I looked after those businesses that they were incubating. And so my job was to actually raise all the finance that those businesses needed. And as you can imagine, they were highly innovative, capital-intensive businesses, pre-revenue. So I had to look under every single rock to find every form of funding that was out there. And that's where I got into this space of looking for funding for growth businesses. And that's how I got to this point now.
Okay. So with KPMG, Guinness Peak Aviation be a big client, and then McLaren with F1. Yes. That whole kind of, that transition with the background of the types of companies that you were either auditing or consulting for or helping.
Yes.
How'd you do that? Right? What was that transition like across the different kind of product lines?
I've always been really curious about businesses. And when I was actually an auditor, one thing clients used to always say to me was, but you're not an auditor. You don't come across as an accountant or an auditor. And probably because my genuine curiosity was I wanted to know how these businesses worked. And I wanted to understand what were the weaknesses and the strengths of every particular business within a sector. So I've never had a problem understanding any form of business. And I think that experience that I got from KPMG of assessing lots of different types of businesses helped me then when I moved into my own consulting business to never get overwhelmed by whatever the business is. At the end of the day, there's a universality about businesses, regardless of what the product or the sector is.
Okay,
Yeah.
I gotcha. And do you think when you were an auditor, I know this going a little bit back, but just curious about that because I was never an accountant myself, but I played one on TV. Do you think you kind of went above and beyond? You had your own framework for auditing and how you looked at companies, and you were doing probably a bit more of a SWOT analysis than an audit?
Yes, my favorite aspect of auditing a business, and actually it stood me in great stead, and I'll come on to it in terms of where we are today and what we've achieved. My biggest joy was doing the walkthrough process of the business. So literally, you take it from inception through to it going out the door through to collections, and just really understanding the business at its very core. What's the business model? And that to me was probably the best training I've ever had.
Okay. And I saw ARC Consultancy on your LinkedIn profile. That was where you got into the McLaren area, and that.
Yes, and I combined because and why I led to building a platform, but I combined large clients with younger ones. So I preferred working with younger, more challenging businesses that really needed growth finance with the larger ones, because the ones I really wanted to work with could never afford a corporate finance advisor. And so I married it with working with larger organizations. And again, that wasn't something I had designed and thought about. It actually worked out really well because I was able to stay in touch with what are the large companies looking for, what's happening, what are the trends occurring, and then being able to go back and say, oh, there's all of these innovative companies. And sometimes I'd actually match both my clients together, where a young tech company would have solved a problem for what a large enterprise was having. So that was quite useful, actually.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think the same way. And initially for me, it was that there were no big clients there. There were just the small ones. Yeah. And then you get the big ones, and that gives you more liberty to work with the small ones, like you said.
Yeah.
And then you start connecting the dots between the two.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're totally aligned on that.
Yeah.
Cool. Since the ARC Consultancy thing, since you've kind of transitioned, how did that go moving, and what was the decision point to say that you were going to launch Swoop? I hear lots of, years of experience there and opportunities to get a real, like I said at the beginning, a framework there for you to assess businesses, the funding situation, what do they need, but then kind of make it more accessible for people, for companies. Tell me about how you made that decision.
Sure. I think when you leave a large corporate, so you've been in this environment of a large organization where there are departments that solve certain things for you and you focus on your one track, to move out of a large corporate environment and your salary gets paid at the end of every month, to move out of that and start your own business is one huge leap to make. And so I think moving from large corp to consultancy, doing similar work that I was doing, was a good idea. It was a nice transition before starting my own tech business. And so you have to learn how to run your own business. And that is a challenge in itself. And I felt that the consulting side of things allowed me to make those mistakes that everybody makes when you don't know what it means to run and grow a business. And so that was my learning ground. And what it also enabled me to do was to earn a living and set aside revenues that I could then put towards what my hypothesis was, that the market needed my product. And I didn't want to lose my earning capabilities while I was testing that out. So what it enabled me to do was actually put money aside to build a prototype and to then be able to go out and speak to key stakeholders and say, here's my idea, and by the way, here's a click-through prototype, and get reaction to see, was I right? And so that for me was a nice way to transition into starting a tech company.
Okay. And when did you sort of get that idea that you wanted to go down the route of building a tech company? Was it kind of prior to stepping out to do the consulting? Was that the first step to get to something later, or did it just come over the course of doing the consultancy? Or
I never actually set out to start a tech company. How it came about was as a corporate finance advisor. First of all, the UK market in particular is highly fragmented. Second of all, the market was growing. It was expanding massively because post-2010, the British Business Bank came in and they really seeded the alternative finance market in the UK. So the good news for a business owner was that there was all of these alternative finance providers out there. The bad news is they still had the same amount of time to try and navigate the market. And so every time I'd work with a company, or I was getting all of these word of mouth referrals saying, apparently you know where to get a grant, you know what the lending market's like. And so I was getting all of these clients by word of mouth, and I realized I can't be everywhere. Half of them can't afford me. Surely I can bring all of this together in a scalable way through technology. And so it was more about how can I automate what I do rather than, oh, hey, I'm going to start a tech business. That's how it came about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's having firsthand experience with the problem that you're solving.
Yeah,
right.
I was just annoyed that I couldn't go somewhere and find what are my businesses eligible for. And fully enough, my annoyance started mainly with the UK government. And being an auditor, funny thing, I decided I'd audit how much the UK government spends on SME interventions and what return do they get for the taxpayer, and how is that moving the dial for actual SMEs. And I did a whole audit. I went through the Public Accounts Committee, got every single piece of evidence, put it together, and I presented in Downing Street to the enterprise advisor, to the cabinet office. I had literally this round table in Margaret Thatcher's old office. I was terrified. And I was essentially embarrassing them into how badly they are running the grants intervention. And so I was like, well, you're spending 12 billion a year and 4 billion goes on admin and 2 billion gets lost in grant fraud. Oh, and by the way, you're not moving the dial at all. And you don't even know what's working and not working. And I gave them a really, really embarrassing case study. And they said, you know what, you are 100% right. We know it's broken. We love your solution. You're the first one in the door with this solution. And that was the moment, after getting that feedback, they wrote to me and said that was in the top 1% of presentations we've ever had in Downing Street. And I was like, that's it. I'm putting everything into this now. And that was the day I basically started to hire a tech team.
And when was that?
That was in 2016.
In 2016.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you hit MVP? When was that launched?
Oh, so this comes into what are my learnings? What did I do wrong? So I did not have any experience of tech people. Didn't know what an API was, didn't know what a piece of code looked like. I knew nothing. I was a domain expert. And I've had a painful journey of misspending on poor tech people. And I think if I was to say, if somebody's starting out today, similar to me, where you want to bring something to your world where you are a domain expert, I think that's an area where you really need to take your time on choosing your tech providers. How do you know whether someone's good or not? You're just going by what you're being told. And I made mistakes and I lost time and investment into that process. And I think I was speaking with Enterprise Ireland about, we won the Overseas Competitive Start Fund. That's how we ended up back in Ireland and relocating here. And thankfully, I'd made my mistakes before we won that, because then I was able to use that funding to build the correct version with the correct team. And I sometimes hear from others who've won that they lost that money through making bad tech partner decisions. So we would have launched earlier, but we launched in May 2018.
Okay. And how do things look today?
We're on that it's part of the cycle where nothing seems to be going wrong for us. and I don't know how long that lasts. And I'll take it while I can, because it's not always going to be like this. But we launched in May and our momentum has been phenomenal. I could not have wished for more. And I say that because it wasn't always like that. I've had many painful, long talks with myself to say, is this the right thing to do? But we launched in May, and then really the game changer for us was we won a competition called the Open Banking Challenge in the UK. And open banking is a phrase that not many people know, but by 2022, 80% of businesses will be using open banking every day of their lives. And essentially it's based around PSD2. All it means is that you as a bank account holder or any accounts that you hold, you are the owner of your data. And it basically moves ownership of your data from the banks to you. And you can share that data via platforms like us to get the best deals for you. So timing for us was incredible. We launched in May. We entered a competition, which we won in July 2018. And they gave us 100,000 to build out a piece of functionality in our platform, which enabled us to integrate with all of the banks in the UK. Our customers can integrate their bank accounts, and then in seconds, we analyze how they're using their bank account. And then we start to show them, actually, you're with the wrong bank. Actually, you shouldn't be paying for your international payments with your bank because you're getting fleeced. You should be using TransferMate or TransferWise, and we help them switch over to those guys. So we identify the savings that businesses can make. And the reason we do that is to improve their financial health. As soon as we improve their financial health, that helps their affordability to go get a loan. So one example I'll give you is small business starting out like ourselves, turning over 100,000. We identified he was using Lloyd's, and they're all the same, so I'm not poking on Lloyd's. He was spending £15 per transaction, and then we compared the spot rate he was getting with Lloyd's to TransferWise. And we worked out that in that 12-month period, we could save him £6,000. At the same time, he was looking for a £25,000 loan from his bank. They told him he couldn't afford it. When we'd saved him the £6,000, that equaled a year's repayments on his 25 grand loan. So within a few clicks on the platform, we've not only saved him that, we've now given him his first year's repayments. Nothing's changed in his life other than he's gotten a bit of intelligent analysis about how the financial decisions he's making and how he's using his bank account. So that for us was a game changer in terms of we built that functionality, and then we presented that to the Competitions and Market Authority in the UK and a lot of judges. There was 24 judges on the panel, including the global head of digital services for McKinsey. It was quite a feat, and they selected us as the winner.
Okay.
And so that now means we've launched with 9 banks in the UK. And that in itself brings its own momentum. So that's really been the majority of why things have really gone well for us this year.
And that's fantastic. I mean, how have the banks responded to?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like an element of something that's forced upon them, open banking and PSD2. And,
yes.
In that Lloyd's example, not necessarily good for them.
No. When we started out, in 2016, when I started out, I could not get a meeting with a bank. Just nobody cared. Why would they? And fast forward to today, the conversations I'm having are just unimaginable. And what's happened, particularly in the UK, but it is changing here in Ireland too. Initially, they saw it as a threat. And then they realized, well, these challengers are coming in, Revolut's taking our customers, Monzo, they're all taking our customers. So we're just going to have to get over this and come up with what's our strategy for the future. So they've gone from seeing this as a challenger competitor space to actually let's embrace this and let's work out our new strategy. And so what they're doing is collaborating. They still own the customer relationship. They have the brand equity. So they still have time to turn this around. And, I was just reading RBS's strategy for the future, and they see themselves as the Amazon of the financial services industry, that it'll be a marketplace, that if they're not the ones to give you the loan or any other service, that they'll show you the marketplace to do that. So we're running pilots with some of the banks here in Ireland as well as the UK, and we're integrating with 9 of them in the UK. So I've seen a complete shift. We are speaking with the 3 main banks here, where they are embracing open banking. They don't have to. In the UK, it was mandatory, whereas here it's a choice. Yeah.
So this is truly you taking everything that was inside your head for how you'd look at a company.
Yes.
Big or small.
Correct.
And you'd say, how can I actually automate that? And we're going to use the word automation. We're not going to use artificial intelligence. We're not going to use natural language processing.
Exactly.
We're just saying automate it and
Yes.
scale it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And put it in an app.
Yes.
It's effectively what you've done.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
And, little tricks I used to do for businesses was I would say, because a lot of businesses, they're not accountants, and why should they be? But they need to know their numbers. So I used to build this little Fitbit for their businesses, and I'd say, okay, don't be terrified of the numbers. Just look at these little indicators like you do when you look at your weight or anything. When it goes up, this is good. When it goes down, you need to worry. Look at your overhead, see if you can improve that number by the time I get back to you next week. And it worked. And I would see growth in businesses. I would see business owners becoming empowered about their financial understanding. And so we built that piece of kit into the platform as well. And yes, it is automated. And yes, I'm sure machine learning, AI, all of that comes from this. But yes, in simple man's terms, it's just my brain.
And it seems like a bit of a mission, I suppose, given that it was a frustration you felt now. And do you find that you're on a path to helping businesses then?
Yes, I'm quite, you can probably tell. I just think it's so unfair that SMEs make up 99% of businesses, and they are what the economy relies on to get countries out of recession. So SMEs are what got this country out of recession. And yet it's the most underserved market. And why is that? Why should a company sitting in Longford, if it's a brilliant company, why should that company not access investor finance as easily as a business sitting in London? That for me is kind of, it doesn't make any sense. And I think if you're a great company and you're eligible for that finance and you need it to grow your business, then it should be available to you.
Okay. Was it that moment that you were sitting in Downing Street, or perhaps afterwards, where they gave you the good feedback on that you realized you had something, or was it at some point after that?
I thought I had something before that.
Okay.
I just didn't have the courage to say I have something.
Yeah.
And I suppose I just wanted a little bit of external validation that I wasn't, too tunnel focused, that I thought I had something great. And working with a lot of young businesses, you do come across businesses where they think they have something great and it's not a viable business. And so I'd seen that myself in working with clients, and I thought, I just need somebody who doesn't know me, a challenging group of individuals, and I don't think you can get more challenging than that group, and to go there and hear that, because I had the Department of Business and UKTI, which is the export agency, individuals who work with a lot of businesses, and to hear them say, this is a great idea. All my customers were telling me it was a great idea, but I thought, are they just being nice because I do a lot of work for them? So that was nice.
Will they pay you more for it?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is the big thing. Yeah.
They're just thinking, I can get it for free now. Yeah.
And you talked about the learning, I suppose, over that first year when you were looking to start it. What different learnings have you had now in the last year when things have been on an upward trajectory?
Yes. Building a team and how to be a good leader. So it's all very well when you're on your own, and then you have a co-founder and you have this sort of your little group, tight-knit group, and then you're scaling fast, so you have to start hiring fast. And I think that, for me, managing that growth of people and trying to instill in them the passion that we all feel. And for me, it would just kill me if we had somebody who joined our platform and didn't feel that they got value out of it, and that they had someone on the other end of the phone that was intelligent, that wasn't just reading a script and trying to push them through the sausage machine. I was looking for, so all of our team are really have great experience in, so they're either equity analysts or underwriters or financial advisors. So I want to marry the technology with an empathetic, smart team. And trying to find that, it's really hard. So that for me, I think has been the challenge that I thought, I'll recruit people. And then you realize recruiting people who have the same philosophy, same empathy for businesses that I do has been challenging. And then motivating them when you're not there all of the time. I think that's been the most challenging. And I had to fire someone. That was the worst thing I've ever had to do.
Did it take a long time?
It took me about Founders Forum is where I would say I love my Founders Forum group. We each bring our challenges to the table, and that is just the most phenomenal program that Enterprise Ireland has created, and it's just world class. So I brought my challenge of, I know I have to fire this person. I don't want to. I've never fired anyone in my life. And they really talked me through the process, and also they're saying you have to report back on the WhatsApp group. So I have no choice. I've got to go do it, and then you do it, and you realize actually that person, I've probably done them a favor. We weren't the right fit for them as much as they weren't the right fit for us. So yeah.
Yeah, with Ollie Walsh, who's the founder and CEO of Pipit out in Galway, he's spoken just as well about the Founders Forum. I hadn't been aware of it until I was at that high potential startup event that you were at and saw the video on that talking about it.
Yeah.
It seems pretty cool. Yes, hiring is hard. Firing is just as hard, if not harder. You mentioned courage a few minutes ago, right? As something that you perhaps didn't have the courage at the beginning to take some of these fantastic ideas you had and basically turn them into products, right? Or turn them into services. That injection of inspiration that you got from that experience on Downing Street seems to have gone a long way in terms of creating the courage there, right? What else? What are some of the other personality traits that you think have been helpful or enabled you to get to this point?
Perseverance. And I don't say that as in perseverance, I think about, I have perseverance. I just get on with it.
Yeah.
I don't really get huge highs and lows. So when things are really bad, I just go, great, I'll just knuckle down and get on with it. And when things are really high, I think that's great, but this is just a little milestone. Tomorrow there's going to be something else. So I try and keep an even keel as to, today's a good day, tomorrow's a bad day, can be the same in one day. So for me, that just keeping it together, whether it's a good day or a bad day, I think is probably one of the things that have stood me in good stead. So I don't panic about those things. I can quickly think on my feet when I'm put into a situation, and that's helped a lot. I think I've got empathy for who my customer is. I've sat in their seat. So I didn't come from this as, there's a market opportunity because of legislation changes in PSD2. I came from it from, this is really frustrating if you're a business owner. It's just not right. And so I think knowing my customer, because I've lived and breathed that experience, has been the biggest strength of all. And I think differentiates us from our competitors. And empathy. I have a huge amount of empathy. I love people. I love businesses. I love getting to know those businesses. And I think they're the qualities that I think will sustain me throughout this. So I'll always love what I do because I love working with different businesses. So it's not really a chore ever. Yeah.
Okay.
And what do the next 12 months hold then? It's been a fantastic last 12 months by the sounds of it.
Yes. So we're really, really focusing on building our relationships with the banks. We are direct to market ourselves. So the platform is available. It's free to use. It's free to register and get all of the results that you are eligible for. Reaching the SME market is a difficult task, even with our years of experience in it. So we get our name out there and awareness out there through partnerships. And the other route is now working with the banks. So building our relationships with the banks both in Ireland and the UK is priority 101. In some cases, they're licensing our technology. So we're white labeling it and then they can have their own version of it themselves. In some cases, it's just through integrations with certain aspects of their platforms. So I think for us, that's the focus. We have ambitions to launch in Asia. So we have already started the investigation process of Asia, and it looks like Singapore or Shanghai would be the good entry point for us, most likely Singapore. So that's another huge challenge that I've never experienced before in taking something global. So being actually in the Irish and the UK market is very interesting. You probably think actually we're very similar. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. The psyche of an Irish business owner versus a UK one is completely different. The market's completely different. An Irish business owner is a lot more conservative, a lot more savvy in terms of achieving better rates for what they're looking for. And yeah, I just think actually I would say better run. When they're at a certain stage, better run businesses. The UK, our psyche is more, I need the cash, I need it now. I'll figure out the rate after. I'll refinance in 3 months' time.
Sounds familiar to what's going on right now in the UK.
Yeah, and you have to look at that. They move faster, so they grow faster with that attitude, and they understand. Oh, I can refinance. Yes, the rate today. I'm not going to be paying in 3 months' time. So I think it's a younger market here in terms of the alternative finance market. A lot of businesses think the only place they can still go is the bank, and then they get rejected, and then they think, well, that's it. I'll have to put my plans on hold or use my own cash flow to reinvest. Whereas the market's a bit further on down the line in the UK. So just very well run businesses here, but more conservative for sure.
Yeah. And in terms of people knowing what their options are here in Ireland, I mean, before we got started today, Andrea, we talked a little bit about Blockchain Ireland Week that's going on here at the end of May. And one of the projects as part of the working groups that I'm heading up for Blockchain Ireland is looking at what is it that blockchain-enabled startups need to know about funding, about grants, about how to get investment, because there's a lot of word of mouth that goes around. There are the usual places that people may direct you, such as to Enterprise Ireland, right, or to perhaps a very small VC market here.
Correct.
But it's just there needs to be a way to level the playing field so everybody just has access to the same information. Yes. So one of the first things we're doing is just taking a very basic one-page approach to say, here are your options.
Yes.
Right? And
here's on that page?
I
am now.
You are now. And yes, I will download the app afterwards and check it out.
But there's one point I will make on this. Irish companies think, oh, I'm eligible for Irish investment. Or they think about going to the West Coast. And that, to me, is the general theme I hear. Irish businesses need to know that they can raise investment in the UK under the UK EIS version. And as long as they have a branch, they don't have to have anything else but a branch in the UK, those funds flow back to their Irish company. Yep. So we are funded both by Enterprise Ireland, some Irish investors, and UK investors, and soon to be Chinese investors.
Yep.
And for me, an Irish business needs to know, get the most out of both markets. So Ireland is really good at the early pre-seed stage. So your LEOs, your feasibility grants, your innovation vouchers, Enterprise Ireland, fantastic. Those do not exist in the UK. So what it means is when you come to raise your first 150 in what's called seed enterprise investment in the UK, Irish businesses are a little step further and stronger than their UK peers. So they're very popular in the UK at the moment, and we have great success for Irish businesses. So I would say to any Irish business, whether in blockchain or anything, if you are looking to raise investment, do not just think of it as the parameters of Ireland. See it as Ireland and the UK, and you're deepening your investor market.
Gotcha. That makes sense. In terms of your business split between kind of 12 to 18 to 36 month old companies versus those businesses that have been running 7, 8, 9 years that maybe struggling to get beyond $1 million in revenue, where's most of your activity? Is it on the newer side or the more mature side of the SME market?
Interesting. When we started, I thought, it'll be the 0 to 9 employees, just starting out. And actually, it's just such an array of businesses so we have businesses that are turning over 2-3 million, looking to scale to the next level. And in those instances, we're giving them access to the VC market in the UK. We have everything from pre-revenue right through to we're doing one at the moment that is 15 million in revenue.
Okay.
So I thought we wouldn't be relevant to that customer in the 15 million mark. What I've discovered is that they actually had used a corporate finance advisor, spent thousands of pounds on one, and they realized their corporate finance advisor had a very small network of potential investors. They made it through that list, didn't get a bite, and so they came to us to say, your network is huge. We've over 1,000 VC funds in the UK on our platform. Okay. So we were able to, even in that case, help a business that I thought that's not our customer, but actually has become our customer. Yeah.
Does having an app lessen the opportunities for people to lean on Andrea?
Yes.
And is that a good or bad
plan? I can't help everyone. Yeah. The only way I can help people is by bringing awareness to it. I run a lot of funding masterclasses. I did one at the NDRC last week. We have a partnership with Virgin. I go on road shows with Virgin to get the word out there. And so I think when I do classes where we can have a big cohort, we get everything out there, every form of finance, and I do a download and bespoke to what they have. And then the platform helps them tangibly to actually go and get that finance then. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And who do you lean on?
I have a brilliant co-founder. I'm so lucky. That has been the changer for me in terms of not having to have sole responsibility for the development of the business. He had experience of building a very successful platform in the past. So he was able to take on the role of, no, I'm going to choose the tech team. I'm going to challenge them on every sprint. Okay. And his name's Kieran Burke. And he had built a platform called Hive, which is like a LinkedIn for the creative industry. Mm-hmm. Had built that up, huge community. And it was a similar bringing together a marketplace of creatives and all of the ad agencies, etc. So that was just fantastic for me to have that support and that type of co-founder.
So look, it's been great to hear the story.
Thank you.
It's gone fantastically well over the last 12 months.
Yes.
We usually like to finish up with my favourite question, which is, what would people not expect to know about you?
Well, I suppose they might now, but I'm a huge Formula One fan. I'm a petrol head. I'm not a petrol head in terms of road cars. I couldn't care less about them. But if you want to know anything about the design of any Formula One car that's on the grid right now, I will tell you.
Someone asked me that question in a taxi from Killorglin to Killarney last week. Do you know much about F1, Pete? I said, not a thing. So you can enlighten me.
I'm the woman.
All right. Awesome. Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you very much for being on the show. And best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Money never sleeps, pal.
That wraps it up, folks. Thanks to Andrea for opening up her mind to help us figure out why she does what she does. Remember, if you or a colleague need help attracting and retaining great talent for your fintech or financial services company, get in touch with the team at Top Tier Recruitment, as they really know their stuff. You can find them at toptierrecruitment.com. As for Andrea, you can find out more about her and Swoop by following Swoop on Twitter at Swoop Funding. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to Money Never Sleeps on iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. You can also subscribe via our website at channels like Spotify and Stitcher, so just go to the subscribe page on moneyneversleeps.ie and follow the links. If you're searching directly on iTunes or Spotify, Money Never Sleeps is spelled as all one word. For more info and links, check out the show notes on moneyneversleeps.ie. You can drop us a line on info@moneyneversleeps.ie or at MNS Show on Twitter. As for me, I increase the odds of startup success. DM me on Twitter at Pete Townsend NV if you want to know more, and you could follow Owen on Twitter at OwenFitzgerald9. Finally, thanks to Conan Brophy from Create Sound for recording and editing this podcast. Till next time, thanks for listening. See ya.